Innovating Education Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.
The fall of the Soviet Union also meant the decentralization of education systems in its former republics. So now, 20 years after this historic landmark, what is education like in the ex-USSR? To find out, we went to Russia and Ukraine, and we talked to expert Carole Zigman in Paris. Cadet schools are on the rise in modern Russia, particularly for girls. Take the country's only boarding school, which offers young women military training as well as cooking and dancing lessons. It aims to turn out strong women who are able to defend themselves in difficult times. Take a look at this report.
Alina is a weekly boarder at the Girls' Cadet Boarding School No. 9 in Moscow. Her mother, Anastasia, is an accountant. Her elder son went to a military boarding school, and now her daughter is following in his footsteps.
Of course, at the beginning of her studies, we missed each other, but then we got used to it. The main thing is that my daughter is not somewhere on the street. She's being kept busy all the time.
The school was founded in 2004 and is fully financed by the state. According to the school's statistics, around a third of the girls here will become civil servants.
After the 1990s, it was necessary to bring up our children in the spirit of love of their motherland. Those were the times of Vladimir Putin. I think he's right to prioritize bringing up the young generation. I hope God helps him to win the presidential elections. Our graduates are normal young ladies who I think are the future of Russia.
As well as military studies, classical ballet, traditional folk dances, fencing and cookery are taught.
We started working on the 1st of September 2004, when the Beslan school siege happened. We thought we really should teach children the basics of security and military service. If the children in Beslan had known what our graduates know, they would have been able to provide first aid.
Before coming to the cadet school, Alina wanted to be a banker.
My main dream? It is to be of help to my country, to my parents, and to make a contribution to our country's progress. That's it.
Carole Zigman is a researcher in political science and an expert in Soviet education systems. We met her in Paris at an exhibition marking 20 years since the fall of the USSR. Let's hear what she has to say on educational differences before and after the Soviet Union collapsed.
Today, as in so many other countries, higher education in Russia is facing financial difficulties.
The higher education system used to be entirely state-financed, especially after World War II, with the generalisation of secondary and higher education. There were strong links between companies and vocational colleges.
Business partly financed education, and graduates worked in those companies for 3 years after graduating.
Let's say, from a management point of view, actually the Soviet model was presented by the OECD with France. They were presented as models. That means public financing and a planned timetable of producing graduates. There were obligatory classes in Marxism and Leninism. The curriculum contained a certain amount of ideology, even with technical courses.
The system allowed for social mobility, particularly for the most deprived. But first perestroika and then the economic crisis arrived. Finance, both private and public, dried up, and universities became more autonomous, with a quota of paying places.
In fact, to get a free place, you had to pay private tutors in order to pass the entrance exam.
Business withdrew and the state took over education funding.
Since the year 2000, we see the state once again taking over the management of the sector, mainly thanks to oil profits, as from 2005. And the strategy they developed of supporting a few national champions.
Around 40 universities are therefore financed by the Russian government, i.e. only 5 or 6% of them. So for Karol Sigman, free universities and the resulting social mobility belong to the past.
Public underfinancing, which has been constant since the 90s, will probably continue in most establishments, especially with the crisis. And in fact, this system will force universities to increase their fees.
A history lesson can be taught in different ways in Ukraine, a country known for its controversial heritage, divided between those nostalgic for the Soviet Union and supporters of independence. Let's see how history is being shared in two different schools in Lviv and Kiev.
Since independence in December 1991, Ukraine has struggled to reconcile its Soviet-Russian past with its more European national heritage. This makes teaching history even more complicated than normal.
Today there's no pressure. Personally, in my work, I agree with Mark Bloch. A historian doesn't have to judge. A historian has to explain. Therefore, we try to present different points of view.
One of the trickiest, most sensitive parts of the curriculum concerns World War II, when nationalist insurgents fought first against the Nazis and then against the Soviets.
There is a general teaching guideline, the concrete dates and events that are to be taught to the students. And of course, teachers have their own position and can offer their own point of view and ask students for their opinions on the issue.
І пропонують учням сказати, що вони з цього приводу думають.
I want to learn history very much, since we can't build a proper future without knowing our past. This is really very important.
20 years after independence, Ukrainians are still finding the balance between Europe and Russia. And part of the answer lies in teaching history.
So, what do you think of education during and after the Soviet Union? Share your ideas with us on our social media pages. And now, a word about our poll on gender inequality in education. The majority of our visitors on social media believe educators and governments are not doing enough to close the gender gap. Well, that's it for now. Goodbye.
Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.